All right. So yeah, there is not many of us, so might be a short meeting. But let's start. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and we have got a couple items on the agenda today. And I guess we want to start from. We need to choose who is going to be the next moderator and who is going to do support. Okay, and there is no Ishita and Dan, so they won't be able to share feedback for the last week. And not many volunteers today who can do it for next week.
I can take next week. I am not going to any vacations, so I plan to work here. So I can take as primary or secondary. Whatever.
Okay. I'm guessing you're best candidate to be a primary.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Let me update list now.
I do think we should send a notice announcement to the channel saying that pretty much all the teams are off. I mean, basically every other project is kind of advertising the fact that there's no maintainers and any help that that is provided is really best effort and donated time from the contributor. So I want to level set people's expectations on the.
I agree. Yeah. So you're saying basically instead of trying to support next week, we can just say there is no official maintainer, no official moderator. Okay, I actually like it too.
Yeah. No, every other project, like if you're in the Slacks for other ones, are like, that's there won't be any meetings, there won't be update, like anything is best effort from the contributors. So let's send that announcement so that people aren't expecting help on issues and stuff.
Okay, I will do it after the meeting. Okay, and next I see we have Regina, and I think she proposed to talk about mitigating the breaking changes in the feature of next release that introduces Argo for pod logs viewing. Do you want to talk about it, Regina?
Hi. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let me know if you want to share screen or if not, I can just open the issue and we can discuss it.
Maybe, I think that maybe we'll start just discussing, and then if you'd like, I can share the code. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So basically, I have started maybe first like a lineup that this issue is introducing a breaking change, because as all resources are denied by default unless a policy that explicitly allows them is present. And so what is visible today will stop being visible unless there are explicit policies defined by the users once this change is out. And so I understood that it was offered to have like a switch for the intermediate release that is saying basically you can just keep this RBAC off and preserve the previous behavior, and then those users who need it, like me, will turn this switch off and then configure explicit allow policies and deny policies on logs. And so I have started developing this change, and I was quite successful with implementing it and also adding tests and making sure that those tests passed with some help from Jan Fischer, which answered some of my questions regarding that. But I'm currently, there is a challenge around the switch. Oh, just a second, sorry. So as for the switch, for me, the kind of intuitive behavior would be that the enforcer itself would be aware of the switch. And then if the switch is on, then the enforcer would like return allow in any case. But the enforcer, but the actual enforcer is it's like very critical code. It's like the core, or one of the core components. So on the one hand, it's a bit scary to touch, especially for me. It's my first contribution. On the other hand, this switch is something temporary. Its life cycle would be just one release and then it would die. Because on the next release, like this log RBAC will be like first class citizen from RBAC's point of view. And so I have tried to work this around and then like implement the awareness of the switch, for example, in can I, so that the enforcer itself is not aware of the switch, but can I is aware. So if the switch is on, I'm asking, can I view logs or something like that? And it would say, yes, you can. And then perhaps be aware of the switch on the level of the application API on the server side. And then if like something, if the switch is on, then don't enforce the RBAC. That might be a workaround, but then when I got to the testing part, the tests look counterintuitive because the tests would operate on the enforcer level.
So actually, why could we do this at the API level instead of the enforcer? Because really the API server is the only thing that needs to ask the question, should this incoming request to view log, should I allow this to happen or not? It seems like adding it to the enforcer might be, as you mentioned, as we're discovering, actually quite complicated. But I think this is probably one of the few things that we can actually just decide at the API level, because things like the application controller won't need to consult this. Actually, in general, I don't think it needs to consult this anyways. But I feel it might be a simpler approach to just have a special check in the API, the logs API for this. And that way you don't even have to touch enforcer.
I mean, I can be okay with that. It's just, you know, if I imagine the tests, yeah, the tests are currently performing enforce. And so the tests would have to, for this particular release, like the test would look awkward because I cannot test this by enforcing, because then the enforcer would return the wrong answer because it's not, you know, because it's not aware of that.
That's
so
true.
I would like, so I would kind of have to write like weird tests that are performing either can I or something like that, that are not actually performing enforce, you know. So I don't know, kind of smelled like a bit of bad coding to me, and I was not sure how to proceed. I also want to test it like really good because it's a breaking change and my first contribution. I want it to be like really good.
I know recently we've got ability to write E2E tests for that cover permissions, and basically you can change E2E tests script to turn on that switch into the on state, and this way you can test it end to end basically, and test would not look awkward. I think Pasha was the first one who added few tests that actually verify permissions. So it's possible to create a user who doesn't have that permission, and we have ability to set whatever environment variables we want during E2E tests creation. So that's another approach too. Yeah.
But there's even simpler. I think it's possible to write unit tests that actually test the API server. I think there's a couple examples.
Yeah. So we can do both.
Yeah.
It's just, I think E2E test could be, you kind of already have all the infrastructure. It could be even easier to
but before we go that, I want to ask Alex and if everyone here if the approach of an API server level transition, because at the end of the day, this is a transition thing. Like everything you're doing, the temporary thing is going to go away with one release. And so my suggestion is not to kind of go knee deep into the enforcer code, because that will have to be undone in another release. So the least amount of things we can do to transition it would be better. So my question to the room is like, is the API server approach acceptable?
Actually, I like this approach too. I feel like the only disadvantage is that I think we have CLI function. Who am I? Can I? I think it's called can I?
Yeah.
Wrong answer, but I think it's okay. Like I would sacrifice it. It's because it's a transitional thing. Or
I mean, that could even be.
No, I've currently I have added. Currently, I have functionality added to the can I.
Oh,
so it checks for the switch and returns the correct answer, because I didn't want it to be like I forgot the word, like inconsistent.
yeah. But I think it's better. In this case, you had to touch two places, but it's still a safer change comparing to touching the enforcer. So yeah, I basically am agreeing with Jesse's suggestion. I would do it on API level as well.
Okay, so then I will write like some dedicated tests for that are like going to be based on the switch, and maybe they would perform more of can I rather than enforce or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I think I interrupted Pasha. Did you have something to add?
Yeah, I just want to comment. So yeah, I pushed the ability to test it with end-to-end testing. So I think it will be very easy for you to test it now. And yeah, I suggest to add end-to-end test for that. It will be better coverage than in comparison. Yeah, we can do both, as all you said. That's what just my addition.
Okay. Pasha, would that be okay if I write you some questions later on regarding the end-to-end test?
Yeah,
great.
Feel free. I can help.
All right. Great. Thanks a lot. Maybe like a couple of small things to add. I was not sure from the points of of onboarding of a new contributors. I was partially asking questions on the channel, and I did not receive much answers. A little I did, but then at some point I got like the direct talk with Jan, and so I was asking him questions directly. So I was wondering what is the approach to onboarding of new contributors in general?
I guess the process is that someone's supposed to nominate you. One of the maintainers supposed to propose you to be a member, and typically that's it. We just have a short meeting every month, and we add people. And I think it's just I don't think we're doing the best job. So basically, everyone is busy, and sometimes we forget. But I guess because you mentioned and because you're working on an important feature, it's a good reason enough to add you. I can be that person, and I think, yeah.
So yeah, if you're asking about the process for I guess becoming member, review, approve it. So I just linked to the membership docs in the Argo project, and this is the basically this describes the process for.
And I think I mentioned the first step to become a member, and basically, my guess is that the transition from member to reviewer, we have we follow the process better and more seriously because we have less reviewers, obviously. So it's.
Yeah, so the member has a relatively low bar because we want to encourage contributors, and then the more privileges that then there's more of a process to make sure that we have the right trust models in place.
Thanks. Understand it better now.
All right. Let's move on. So the next topic I proposed, I just wanted to basically share what we were doing with performance testing and why. And maybe I was hoping to get some feedback. So the problem we're trying to solve right now is we basically use Intuit as a way to test performance, like last minute performance changes, which is not good because we have dependency on Intuit, and plus, no, it's like basically only I can do it right now. And Pasha was working on trying to solve that problem. And so we've got following idea. Basically, we were thinking that we can build a set of tools that can generate just data, and those tools can live in Argo CD repo. And basically, the data are Argo CD settings, Argo CD applications, projects, repositories, and clusters. So the next decision was basically we want to use, I guess, V clusters to simulate lots of clusters. So basically, we can have Argo CD. So we can have Kubernetes cluster that run Argo CD and has a bunch of test data for that Argo CD. In the same cluster, in namespaces, we can run a lot of V clusters. And V cluster, if you never heard of it, it's an open source project which is just a K3s plus some additional stuff. Actually, I guess the decision about so yeah, I guess something K3s based in the namespaces of this big cluster that contains everything. And so and the idea was that we will have a set of tools that can generate data. We have some automation, maybe just a Helm chart that can create a bunch of clusters and install Argo CD itself. And then we can just have a Prometheus sitting in the Uber cluster and collecting metrics and just kind of page us when things, when some metrics showing slowness. So basically, it doesn't look like a test. We will have just a continuously running test that keep measuring performance. And and one important thing was that the Argo CD installed in the cluster should be running latest version. And every time we upgrade, every time we make a change in master, it would upgrade this Argo CD. And so if we introduce some slowness, we should see it immediately. It's kind of very similar to what we do at Intuit, except I mean, we don't have like, we have Argo CD instance that manages real clusters and Intuit, and we keep upgrading to Argo CD. And if things go like becoming slow, then we see it early. That's it. Yeah, and then basically, if anyone has any suggestions, tell us, please.
And one more advantage to use dedicated clusters that we will have others. Today, only you know that something went wrong, and you see it at evening and fix it. And so, for example, once I push something to master, I will understand immediately that something went wrong.
I guess like last time, this last release was delayed again because of this, because it's like,
as I understand, it happens from time to time.
It happens always, like, pretty much each and every release we make some change that is difficult to catch in during like normal testing. So the example is, for example, we introduced project scope resources, and the change was working great, but the performance degradation happened in a cluster that had a couple thousands of projects. It's not like this is, you don't get it normally in each and every environment. You don't get it in test environment. So yeah. And
I think it's a great idea. So there's a proposal to have some dedicated resources that is constantly testing.
Exactly.
Master,
it's not really a test. It's like basically we're saying, let's have Argo CD that simulates all type of performance challenges. And okay, yeah, and other thing we were talking about is, let's say we have a bunch of applications that are installed into these test clusters. And in each and every cluster, we can run also a job that keep touching annotations, just simulating noise in the cluster, kind of trying to basically it's like a simulation of a real environment and real Argo CD that manages a lot of clusters, and
Yeah.
nothing keep happening.
And in advance, we can even add UI performance testing, but it's less important right now, I think. We
Yeah,
need to-
so I think there's, I want to just jot down the scaling dimensions that we are concerned about. Like there's like many
Many applications,
clusters.
many projects, and
and
I'll
the
lump that in
repositories.
with, the cluster activity is actually the one that I'll call it cluster churn. That's the part you just mentioned, right? Like
and
one thing that just,
and repositories, you missed.
oh yeah.
Repositories. Pasha found an interesting source of repositories. Apparently, Argo CD examples repo, it was forked 2000 plus times. So we have already a list of like a cheap way of real publicly available repositories. Cheap source.
Oh, I see what you're. That's funny. Yeah, we could.
Yes. And maybe ABAC rules and users. It's also I saw at least few bugs around this. That when we have a lot of ABAC rules and users and projects in such combinations, our enforcers work very slow and affect all endpoints. Alex fixed that.
That one, this one could be more of a not necessarily environmental. We can benchmark that through like a unit test almost. Like,
some kind of smoke test that maybe simulate user activity, and
or at least the RBAC part of it, I think, can be benchmarked. First, like we don't have to spin up a real environment.
Don't you think that this project has a great chance to be like our full performance testing tool? And like I think we can in future we even can measure like a load, pages time, UI, and so on. Or do you think it should be dedicated? I would just combine it into one place somehow.
I think it would be useful. I'm trying to size the at least prioritize the
Okay.
I think what are the things like the many application, many clusters are probably the obvious top two things that we know we constantly hit. But yeah, I think the RBAC stuff it could go there, but I know that one's much easier to test through micro benchmarks. So it would be my last one to try to implement for environment-based scale testing. Regina said performance. Oh yeah, that's another good one. So large applications.
Oh yeah, just lots of.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Resources.
And I think
Any others people?
Sorry, Jesse.
Oh, I was just wondering what other scaling dimensions are we?
I think it's good to start, and we can extend it later. I don't see any problems.
And another question, basically,
where to run
it? Say it again.
Where to run it?
Yes, exactly. So it will cost money by definition, and I was thinking that we can just start from, when it's small, we can just keep using the cluster that we use for demo Argo CD instance. So basically, I think we can afford to spend a little bit of money there, and after that we can decide to either, speak with our managers at Intuit, CodeFresh, Red Hat, if we can get, budget for that, or we can try to use CNCF servers. So
I would actually be very happy to have CodeFresh just run it right now. I mean, we've got I think it's totally reasonable. And I would be very happy for us to do it and run it at least until it becomes a problem, you know. But yeah, my expectation is that this is something that we're happy to do. We kind of need to do it anyway for our own use. And so we're already doing some of this testing. So I think it's, you know, I think it's totally reasonable for us to just take it on and run it.
Okay, yeah. And I guess like there is no need to do it right now because we don't have anything yet. But we just need a simple way to start a Kubernetes cluster. And basically the work can be done on Minikube, but you know, to run it at scale, we need something more powerful than Minikube.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's it. That's all I had. I just wanted to, you know, kind of give a heads up because we will have to start making some PRs to create generators. And we were thinking it can live inside of Argo CD under the hack folder. Basically, the generators can be used by developers to just create test data, or we can use them to generate test data for performance testing. And so basically, it's a heads up that this is coming.
Yeah, it would be very usable, for example, even for problem with Argo that we had last time ago.
Yes.
So, yeah, so it would be.
Okay. Apparently, meeting was not so short. We already spent 45 minutes. All right. Any other topics? Anyone wants to discuss something? All right. If not, I guess we can wrap up now. So I'm going to stop sharing, stop recording.